I would like to call this Teaching and Learning Committee meeting to order on November 4th, 2024 at 4:31 p.m. Start with the roll call. Tracy Pollock.
Here.
Ryan Medved.
Here.
Kim Higginbotham. I am also here. Item 3, approval of the agenda. I will hear a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Tracy and a second by Brian. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, that motion carries. Item 4, I have approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of October 7th, 2024 committee meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Medved and a second by Mr. Pollock. Any discussion? Yep. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right. Item 5, we have reports and updates. Item A is professional development update, and I will hand it over to Jake Miziak and Katie Cole. Thanks for joining us.
The purpose of this update is to keep you abreast of what's going on for the professional development of our staff during the days that we have outlined this year. So this is a recap of the October 25th in-service day. At the elementary level, they were split into 4 separate sessions throughout the morning. So one of the sessions that they had, they were working with a trainer from Wonders, and the trainer provided specific information to our teachers in regards to implementation of Wonders and how to best use the data that's available to them on the Wonders platform. So she showed them how to get into it and then how to access the data and information about their students and the progress that they're making. Another component to that, we had Miss Kelly Schultz, who is our county line principal. She developed and provided to our teachers some specific training around Act 20. Act 20 has several key components that we have to provide professional development to teachers on, and she focused on oral reading fluency with our staff and then provided them with some strategies that they could use. Another component that we focused on during the elementary portion was the Ames Web Screener. So the state of Wisconsin has mandated that all of our students in grades 4K through 3 take a screener to identify if students are at risk and if they need a personalized reading plan. So part of the Act 20 requirements is that we train our teachers in how to use that screener. So they were provided information and training related to Ames Web and how to use that platform. And the last element to that, they had some time to collaborate with their colleagues by grade level. And during that time, there were a couple of things that we accomplished. One was kind of an extension of the session that Kelly provided, where they were able to take the information that she had and then think about how they would apply it with Wonders in their upcoming units. And then the other piece of that is we provided our elementary staff with some information regarding our supplemental materials policy and made sure that they were aware of how the supplemental materials policy functioned and then how to embed that into stage 3 of UBD. At the 6-12 level, that was an extension of what we have been doing at the pre-session in-service, so the August days. And for those, what we did was we had the 6-12 departments for all of our departments except for the few that are either 9-12 specific. So an example of that would be our business department, or K-12, which is PE, art, and music. So those departments all met, and what we're working there is the vertical alignment of the standards that are associated with their courses. So the vast majority of the work that we did with our teams at the 6-12 level was to look at the standards that are associated with their courses and then prioritize those standards. So there's some criteria that we can use to prioritize standards to make sure that there's an alignment. 6-12 of the things that we're focusing on with our students. Each of the secondary administrators took one of those groups. I had one of those groups, and then one of my coordinators also had a group that we were running them through by department and supporting that work. The 6-12 groups also had an overview of the supplemental materials policy and how that's enacted, and then how they can put their materials into stage 3 of UED so that it can be cataloged there.
I'll start with 612 special education, since Jake was just talking about what they worked on. The special education teachers were a part of that standards prioritization work, which is really important because they support students within the classrooms and should be writing their IEPs based on those standards. So they definitely have a voice and should be a part of that work. So they were within a department for that work. They, I think, chose based on where they support students most often, and then they meet as special ed department as well, so they can kind of coordinate the work that they were not a part of. For the elementary, the majority of the teachers were in all of the elementary sessions. I did have one small group, which included our speech pathologists, early childhood teachers, and then any of our special ed teachers that work in 4K. We had a training specific for them. We call it COSIP training. COSIP stands for Child Outcome Survey Form. And for one of the indicators that we have from DPI for special education, it focuses around the improvements that children ages 3 to 5 make within their IEP. So with that, there's an entry reading that the teachers put in, and then there's an exit as well once they age out of that. So now that we have 4K, that's why we needed our special education teachers that work with 4-year-olds, so that we're making sure we're following those processes and that they know how to do that exit criteria. So we did have someone from CISA 1 that is an early childhood implementation specialist come and just go through that process to make sure that everyone was clear. The reason that we had that training, in one of my earlier meetings with departments, it was requested from our speech pathologist that we go through that again. So it was a review for many staff members, but we do have some newer staff members and then ones, again, that now work in 4K. That's changed things a little bit. So we just wanted to make sure everyone was really clear on how to make those ratings and then the process for that survey that needs to be completed so that we have all of our information and data in to DPI. And then throughout the day, we had the opportunity for any special education staff to come here if they needed any help with progress reports. We're having them upload their progress reports to Skyward, which is different to have the teachers do it. So we had some directions with screenshots, but then we were just here all day in my department. If someone had questions or wanted to sit down and work through it, they could come over. And we did have a few staff members come and utilize that. And that was throughout the day whenever they had a break within their training or meetings. They could come over for that assistance. And I was able to go to 2 building level special education meetings today and just check up to see if anyone was having any issues with progress reports, and everyone seems to be good. So that was nice to have that a couple of weeks ago because those are not due till the end of this week. So they've had plenty of time then to work through any issues or ask questions.
Any question? So the exit review that you were talking about, is that something that's relatively new, or have we been doing that all along?
No, that's something that has been part of that process. What might be a little different is which staff members are completing those. So speech pathologists work with students that would be in that EC early childhood range, so that's why they're part of that process. And then because they might have speech and language goals, and then the special education teachers as well. So they do that entry and then that exit around 5. That doesn't discontinue their IEP. It's just that they're looking at those outcomes at that age range.
Sure.
That's just one of our indicators that they track.
Alright.
So our completion data has always been good, but we just want to make sure everyone knows the process, and they have the ability to ask questions too. And we talk through some scenarios, which was a nice opportunity in a small group to do that.
Right. Well, and it's kind of like what we're talking about is getting cohesive for all of our processes, so
Mhm.
that one person can look at it and understand somebody else's, because we're all doing the same processes.
Right, for
So,
consistency.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, thank you. All right, we will move on to unfinished business. Item A is a 3-year school library plan, 24 to 27.
Okay. The library plan was first presented to the Teaching and Learning Committee back in February of last year, and we're bringing it forward at this time for consideration for approval by the full board. This is one of the requirements that we have per the Department of Public Instruction, that we have on file a 3-year library plan. The school librarians, Mr. Jeff Schreiber and Aaron Gaskell, are here tonight to ask or answer any questions that you might have regarding the library plan and kind of highlight the key elements that were presented at the last Teaching and Learning Committee meeting. One of the biggest things that our librarians accomplished last year was when they analyzed our current collection. One of the big additions that they were able to make was to bring Sora Overdrive in so that we could expand access to our elementaries at the K-5 level for our online digital resources. This year they've added to it a little bit additionally, so to support the implementation of Wonders and to support the science of reading, they've added to that digital collection, providing access to decodable readers for our students so that our youngest readers, K1, have access to books that parents can utilize with their students at home via Sora or Overdrive. So it becomes a nice bridge between teaching and learning and the collections that we're able to offer to students. And with that, I will turn it over to our librarians to provide an overview of the 3-year plan.
Thanks, Jake. So I'm Aaron Gaskell. I'm the Library Media Specialist at Kennedy Middle School. Jeff Schreiber at the high school. The two of us also, because we do not have a designated media specialist or library media specialist at the elementary schools, we also oversee programming through and collections through our elementary schools as well. So two of us have collaborated on this plan for some time, and as Jake said, presented it to you first draft last February, and we're looking for that approval for the plan that we've kind of refined and made some edits on. So we want to kind of highlight those things for you and then take the questions that you have. Was everybody here for the initial presentation, or do we have new?
I'm new.
New, okay, Brian. Thanks. All right, so if it's okay, what we'll do is just kind of give the overview of how this is constructed in terms of the content and just how it's documented and laid out, goals and objectives. And then the big addition, Russ, just specifically, we recall back in February you were looking for like an action planning kind of like documentation piece to the back end of the plan. So we've added that, and we'll finish with that and give you a look at that.
Perfect.
The plan that was attached to the document that Jake sent out was actually, I think, the initial. So I don't know if we have the capability of putting up the current published plan, but I think that would be helpful. So do you want to go up to the top, Jake, and just go to the home page first? There we go. Okay. So, as Jake mentioned, this is actually part of state statute that as a district we need to have a long-range plan for our school library services, and the welcome statement kind of defines that and also kind of introduces us to the Future Ready framework for schools, which is really a national framework that was adopted by the state, and specifically they have a Future Ready framework for libraries as well. So that graphic that you see on the left-hand side kind of outlines what that framework looks like. If we want to call each of those wedges a pie piece, there's 8 different pie pieces that were given to align our school library goals and objectives to, starting with curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And so, Jake, if you want to, just go ahead and go down. With curriculum, instruction, and assessment, they give us some buckets to kind of consider, and that's where we start talking about digital resources, empowering our students with those tools that we give them digitally, and then building instructional partnerships, not just within our own schools, but as a district, partnering with our IT and our technology integration specialists and our classroom teachers as well. And so the way that this framework is broken down, you'll see on the left-hand side, current initiatives, practices, and artifacts. And so without going through each bullet point, what we did is we looked at each initiative or practice that we currently have, and we kind of listed it underneath there in terms of technology that we are offering and technology resources that we offer both our teachers and our students. On the right-hand side, you'll see our future areas for growth, which is really what guides our action planning moving forward. And so, again, left-hand side is kind of what's already in place, and right-hand side, what we're really setting sights on for the future. And so under curriculum instruction and assessment, we identified aligning resource reviews with district policy, curriculum standards, and goals, which is always an ongoing practice that we have to follow. So always taking the resources that we have and then aligning it with our district policy, standards, and goals. Second bullet is establishing a schedule to review and evaluate current digital subscriptions to ensure we're offering high quality and relevant resources that meet the needs of our school communities. This is what we really dug into a bit in the last year plus, and that's where, especially post pandemic, we realized when we were depending on digital resources that our middle and high school students had quite an advantage to digital access over our elementary schools. And so that's what we tried to address last year with our Overdrive and Sora digital library, and we're moving forward with that. Exploring makerspace and resources that inspire students with curiosity, creativity, and innovation. Doing more with video production, especially at the middle school, some at some of our elementaries as well, offering those capabilities, and also looking at different robotic type makerspace options as well for students to come in and just explore curiosities rather than just come in for literature and typical library resources. Moving down is personalized learning, so the next pie slice in the framework. This is where we facilitate personalized professional learning. On the left-hand side, again, current initiatives that we already believe we have in place, just in terms of promoting resources, providing training for resources, staff and parent newsletters. On the right-hand side, for future areas for growth, we identified extending and expanding or growing our library tutorial collection, especially again on the elementary students and staff side. So full transparency, it's much easier for Jeff and I to have a close pulse on middle school and high school because that's where we're housed, that's where we work with students most often. And so trying to also give more intentional attention to our elementary schools, especially now that they have a new program online with Overdrive. We're going to put an emphasis on creating and curating professional development resources because our teachers are going to need to know how to use it so that they can promote it to students, and also have some tutorials for our students so they can effectively and confidently use the new resource that they're given. Robust infrastructure is really working with our IT team, again, and making sure that all of our resources are accessible and efficiently accessed by our students, and I really feel like we do a good job with that. Working with Nick Kellenhofer this year, we already have a lasting and long relationship with Nick, so I don't think that's really going to be much of an issue for us. So we'll continue to collaborate with that department on best practices and making sure that our students have access to not only our resources but our technology, and that it's consistently not only up and running but accessible. Next one is budget and resources. Brian, I'm not sure how much you're aware of library funding, but the bulk, if not all, of our library funding for our school libraries comes from a common school fund, which is allocated state funds. And all the background information is linked on there, that you can see where that information comes from. So in terms of our resource collections in our library, they're all funded through Common School Fund, which are really funds earmarked for library services, library programming. That includes our collection of resources that are housed in our library, our digital resources, and technology that's offered through our libraries as well. So there's an ongoing role that Jeff and I have in this. So future areas for growth, really just doing an annual review of our digital collections, ensuring that our services are relevant, being utilized, and meeting the needs of our students. Always curating our library collections, both print and digital, to promote inquiry, student-led exploration, and both curricular and non-curricular topics. And that again leads us to investing in Sora. We worked pretty hard on curating a collection with our representatives there that not only aligns with curricular goals, but also our own student curiosities and interests as well at their grade levels and age levels. Last bullet point underneath there, seeking funding through community partnerships to create opportunities not allowable under Common School Fund. So there's things that we can't, if we want to provide furnishings or equipment that is not following or under Common School Fund guidelines, those funds have to come from elsewhere. We are, Jeff, I think we'll talk about it in our action planning. We're expanding our Battle of the Books program, which is a literacy opportunity for all of our students, both elementary and secondary. And there's some investments that go into that. We try to offer incentives and awards and things like that. Those things are not able to be funded through Common School Fund, so continuing to seek those community partnerships. Just recently, last week, I had parent volunteers at the middle school support our book fair, and we did a really good job raising funds, and that was really my goal, to support our Battle of the Books program and expanding that coming up this year. So that definitely aligns with budget and resources as well. Want to pick up community partnerships?
Sure. As you move down the list, community partnerships is the next part of the pie, and really that involves us and our relationship with the Germantown Community Library. And they've been fantastic, they really have. Especially, you know, when it comes to even like Battle of the Books, they will get us whatever we need. They'll put out a display. They've been fantastic. If you go around to our libraries, you'll see they also put a display in our libraries for fall, summer programs that they have, holiday programs. So we've seen that grow quite a bit in the last few years as far as our relationship with them. And so I think the idea is that we just sort of continue these relationships. We also sponsor, we had an author visited Amy Bell last month, which was a lot of fun, and that is working through Boswell Books. So, and we're trying to work author visits. Aaron had an author come in last month as well. So little things like that we can kind of work with the community in getting those sort of partnerships.
They're fantastic opportunities. Boswell Books brings in authors through publishers, and they work really closely with schools to just get kids opportunities to connect with authors, talk about backgrounds, and inspire not only writers but readers as well.
Yeah, they were at Amy Bell. It was a fantastic visit. The author came and he had a book about an alligator who had a restaurant opening on his nose, and you know the kids were loving it, and they had fun going. And he taught them how to draw. He taught them, you know, it was, the kids loved it, and then afterwards they sell the books and they buy the books as well. So they walk home, you know, if they want to purchase an individual book, and so that's kind of how Boswell gets in the door with those. But those are great partnerships that we can have with them as well. Data and privacy is really just sort of another arm of us working with technology, student records and student data, keeping that safe, ensuring there's safety and privacy in library checkouts, digital citizenship. And again, our really, our area for growth is really just to ensure that all of our staff, our paraprofessionals, understand what's happening as far as privacy with kids, and understand as far as technology what the limits are, and keeping them abreast of everything. So I think we do a pretty good job of that already, and we also, as you said, have a really good relationship with the tech department here, with Nick, and who we've known for years, and so it's been fantastic actually working with him in his new role. It's been very valuable. Collaborative leadership. that sort of goes with our relationship, not only with the classroom teachers, but it also is our relationship with you guys, with principals, with the school board, with directors. And I think that we have a strong relationship, as I've said last time we presented this. We have a good relationship with, I think, everybody when it comes to being responsive to whatever you guys ask and whatever, if you have concerns. I think we've done a good job of addressing those concerns and trying to get to the bottom of any issues. So I think keeping that relationship positive and keeping that going is important, especially in the light of, whatever may be down the pike as far as, challenges or things like that. Working together with you and materials, I think it's important, obviously, to us that we have a really strong relationship and an open relationship with everyone. And so it's been very valuable, and I think that, that it helps that everybody understands, where they're coming from. So I think that's been a valuable thing as well. Use of time and space, we really don't have a problem with that because we got all brand new spaces a few years ago. So, it's been a blessing, as I said last time. It's been fun to work with them and utilize the spaces in ways. Things have been changed, rooms have been changed to different green screen rooms and things like that. But we're just really thankful that 6-7 years ago now we had the opportunity to get new facilities. And so, as you go around to other facilities in the area, I think we have some of the best facilities, K-12, and so I think that's something that we take a lot of pride in. And then finally, the Learner Center Literacy really sort of involves, our ability to provide a lot of different formats, and that's really another place where our SORA goal came out of, is to provide not only print books, but ebooks and audiobooks, and online databases, and places where everybody can have equal access to it. Are provided with Chromebooks and iPads, having those available to kids, presenting materials that represent all kinds of genres, fiction, nonfiction, making our collection is diverse. Transparency is a thing that was big, I know, on everybody's list, making sure that catalog was available and that makes sure that anybody can search those catalogs and anybody can search Sora and anybody can search Destiny and find out what's out there, and they can find out what's in and what's out and what we carry in our collection. Anybody from the community has access to that. So I think obviously that's important. There's nothing to hide, and people are welcome to look at whatever we have. As far as where to go in the future, it's always wanting to make teachers known of our library programming. It's hard with, when you have with new curriculum and new staff and stuff like that. So we've worked hard to make sure everybody is on the same page and knows what we offer. And so we continue to work on that. And the final thing, our goal action plan. And I think last time we were here, you're right, Russ, you said, let's get an action plan. That was the one thing that you'd wanted. And so Aaron and I worked quite a bit on this to try to make sure that you had, what they really want is you to focus on sort of one goal instead of like something in all the spaces. They want us to say, all right, what can we do well? What's the one thing we can do that we can sort of measure and do well? And we chose Sora. And so what we want to do is put it in a little bit of an action plan for you so that we could see where we were and where we're going. Last year, we spent a lot of time organizing and seeing what was out there. And I think that's what we were in the midst of. Last time we talked to you, we were in the midst of finding out whether we should go with our own collection, curate our own collection, or whether we should get something that the state from the consortium that they have, that they put out to everybody. And it was decided that we'd go with our own collection, which gave us the best control over it. And it's worked out good. It's been it was a little more expensive, but it also allowed us to control everything that was happening. One thing that we had talked about last time was that to make sure that there's who has access to what materials. And so we wanted to be sure that we were on the right page with that. And one of the things that they were working on is sort of dividing up the K-5 categories so that the kindergartners wouldn't have access to the 5th grade stuff and the 5th graders wouldn't have to have access to the kindergarten stuff. And that was something that really, in the last 2 weeks, we were able to finally get them, they finally had the opportunity to do. So we separated it now so that K2 and 3-5 have access to their own materials, and the K2 kids are not going to be looking at the 3-5 kids, all right? There are a lot of granular models that were available. Aaron and I thought we'd start here. I mean, are there ways to go further up the line? Yeah, but for right now, this made the most sense to us. But just so you know, it's always open to discussion if there's more granular division that you want. But it was important to us that the kindergartners didn't have access to 5th grade stuff. So that's.
So in Sora, the gist is they have in elementary, they have a early elementary collection, that's the K2, and then they have an upper elementary collection, K5. So taking each of those titles that we invested in last year and really just aligning them so that we feel like the access is appropriate for each of those students. And Jeff and I are constantly doing that too, between the middle school and high school. So the middle school has its own access to what we're considering kind of the juvenile to young adult level in terms of access to resources in Sora. And students can look down, but they can't look up. So our middle schoolers could look down and see something that's upper elementary. Certainly a middle grade piece of literature is going to fit in both categories, but you can't look up. So our middle schoolers can't look up and find titles that are necessarily earmarked and designated high school collection as well. So that kind of granular access has taken a while longer than we thought, largely because at the time we were exploring this last spring when we presented it to you, there were only 3 levels available: elementary, middle, and high. And now that we were able to kind of break up and designate 4 different access levels, we're feeling much more comfortable about where we're headed with that.
Yeah, and we haven't rolled it out yet, and if you look at where we are now in 24, 25 and what we're going to do, we're really going to roll this out as well this year. And we haven't rolled it out yet because I think we spend a lot of time doing dummy accounts, making sure that little kids don't have access to anything. So we definitely wanted to make sure we had it down before we sent it out because, you know, there's no going back at that point. So we haven't rolled it out yet to the entire staff. We wanted to make sure we knew everything that was going on and everybody had the correct access to stuff. So we're looking to hopefully in November here roll this out to staff and students so that they can have access to it. And it's been a long process, but I think it's going to be great. And even with the phonics and decodable stuff that we added this year, working with Alejandro and getting that stuff added, I mean, we're already seeing like, hey, this can be a really good access point. And even magazines, we've added magazines as well on there. That's new this year. So that's been a big accomplishment so far. Battle of the Books has been great because we're allowed, you know, when you order through Follett, when a jobber, if I were to order a bunch of books today, I probably wouldn't get them for maybe a month or 2. But with the Battle of the Books, I can order them today and tomorrow they're in the collection. So it's been great for Battle of the Books to get kids instant access and to get a lot of kids access to it. So Sora's already proved really valuable for that. Let's see here. As far as looking ahead, one of the things that we want to do is take a look at our collection review process. I think we always have looked at it. I mean, this is nothing that ever is stopped looking at, but I think, you know, this year a focus is to try to get a little more concrete idea of the collection process that we can use, because there's really, quite honestly, there's a lot of different angles to it now. New things that have come up in the last few years, new mediums that are available that, you know, we want to make sure that we're having our eye on everything. And a lot of material comes in, there's a lot of stuff out there, and so I think developing and working on some sort of plan, a best practice plan for this would be valuable. So this involves things like formal collection analysis to ensure that we're meeting, you know, diversity audit, which we've done for the inquiry that we had to have in last month. So we do things like diversity audits. We're doing things like collection analysis of age, usage, and other quality benchmarks that we'll look at. I identify material review resources to utilize so that we have a set spot of places that if there are questions about a book, we can go to one spot and say, all right, what does this say? What does this say? You know, so we're not all going to different spots, that we can go to one spot and see what the reviews are for that, or one or two spots, whatever it may be. Develop, you know, or continue weeding guidelines and weeding processes to see what it is we are keeping and why we are keeping it and what we are getting rid of and why we are getting rid of it. And a new one that was really added to the bottom is content streaming policies. That's something that's new. I mean, we really don't buy DVDs anymore. You know, it's an outdated mode, and even the student or the teacher don't have DVD players, so nobody's really playing DVDs anymore. They don't have access to Amazon Prime or free-for-all, you know, Netflix and things like that, which is good. So we provide their movie content for them through things like Swank Media, the K-12 provider, feature films through Infobase, other curriculum on demand things that kind of contain the old film strip sort of materials on them that we used to see. And so, you know, I think working on a content policy for those services to make sure that that there's quality control in there, I think would be something that definitely would be part of the plan as well.
Speaking to that, I think we're in a better place than we ever have been,
Yes.
because I think back a couple of years ago where teachers were and could use their own streaming accounts, and we've moved away from that 100%. And so now it has to come from either an approved resource, whether it's provided through teaching and learning or through the library. And so I think we can feel much better about that, but there's still that reality that there's new things coming online all the time. So you subscribe to a vendor, it's just the nature of technology, and we all know that, you know, what's there one day is either gone and replaced by 10 other things, and it's really hard to keep up. So in terms of just making sure that we're doing the best we can to intentionally have some policy in place to ensure that we're doing everything we can to know what is being put in front of our kids is
And
important.
the safeguards are important for us, obviously, too. Like with Swank, that is only a teacher-accessed movies. Students cannot just log in like they're at home on some, you know, movie account and log in and start watching movies that are there. Those are movies that only a teacher can access. A teacher can show parts of that and do things of that from whatever those movies may be. However, the students do not have access to that, which we think is, you know, looking at quality controls like that, like how teachers have access to that stuff is important as well. So that's part of the whole plan, that something we'd like to look at this year, you know, in the goal.
So just to wrap up, on that action plan document that Jake has up on the screen, what we've kind of done is we've kind of looked at just kind of a documentation process, not only of what we've accomplished, but also statements going out through 2027 to kind of guide us on this, not only main goal, which is what you'll see on the top. So all of our work that you see bulleted is the main goal, which is really focusing on our digital resource and investment, specifically for the elementary school, but also provided at middle and high. And then down below, we'll also document other steps that we're taking that are connected to the plan and all of those other buckets and pie pieces as well. And then also documenting maybe some things that were either unfinished business or looking ahead to the following year as well, to kind of guide us through the plan over the course of 3 years. So there's your overview.
Yeah.
There's a lot there without reading everything to you. Certainly happy to answer questions or clarify anything that you heard.
So yes, I do like that there is more meat and content to knowing what we're actually voting on, besides just having, because obviously this is a well put together plan, but without knowing what our goals are, it's hard to really look at the plan and say it's good. It sounds like our goal is mainly the digital library, sort of the digital.
That's what we identified. That's what we identified last year after kind of doing, you know, our collection overview and analysis of kind of looking at from an equity standpoint, K-12, where are the gaps? And so the digital library specifically for the elementary school is certainly our biggest gap. And we're still kind of working on that release of that. So there's plenty of work to be done to make sure we fine tune it and that the response is good, that the access is good. So that's why we identified that. But also with the understanding that everything you see in the plan prior, those statements, is also going to be focused on. So it's not that we're not doing other things. We certainly are, and we're still focusing on those others. But in terms of what the state asks in our library plan, we have to identify one main focus over the 3-year plan.
And the selection stuff will be print as well. Like it's not just digital for that. I mean, we're definitely want to develop a way to make sure that we have quality control of what's coming in print as well.
And that's my point, is
Yeah.
are we still, I mean, with the digital stuff is, obviously it's good, and it sounds
Yeah.
like we have a good way to keep that ongoing, but I don't think that, do we have a good process right now as of what we currently have in our library? And, you know, in all the libraries throughout the district, are we keeping track of what's there? The usage of it is important, so if we have
Mhm.
books in there that are never being used, or rarely, what belongs in there, what's appropriate, what is
Right.
inappropriate,
Mhm.
that we're really being proactive
Right.
instead of until, somebody comes forward and says this shouldn't be in there.
Right.
Right. So there is a link under this year's action plan section with a collection analysis that Jeff just ran recently, and it'd be interesting for you to look that over. It kind of breaks down our libraries by collection. There's a report for each school library. It breaks it down into, the categories, everything from fiction all the way through nonfiction topics, what the average age is, what the audience level is for that in terms of what are we what are we offering and providing to our students, and then the percentage of our collection that each one of those kind of hits. There's a lot of information in there to dig into, and so that's what we're going to continue to look to do.
Yeah, and to make sure that selection policy is, uniform. We want to make sure that that's, we already have a very good materials challenge policy, and those things are, if something does happen, we have a good, way to handle those issues, but, now we want to make sure that we have everything, that we've re-examined what we're doing now to make sure that we're doing the best practices for choosing what we are.
Related to that, one of the things that I can speak to again, and it kind of comes back to our elementary schools not having as close of an eye. We're not in those buildings every day, but there's opportunities for a lot of refinement in those collections in terms of weeding and updating
Puck.
certain collections. So
You knocked the puck on the
Oh.
floor there. Sorry, that's
Of course
the,
I did.
that's your mic.
Sorry about
Sorry.
that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
We can hear you, but they might not be able to hear you.
Yeah. Sorry for those at home.
Yeah.
I just heard a loud thud.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity in our elementary schools to refine those collections, not just by addition, but by subtraction as well. And that's part of the library business, in just making sure that we have the most relevant, up-to-date collections that we can, that are current, and just making sure we're keeping up that way. And that is a challenge, not gonna lie,
Yeah.
for 6 schools and 2 people with support staff.
That brings me to my question. You're talking about digital content, and you have the ability for the vendor to change that content at any point. Can we get to the vendor and have them let us know when updates happen, and we have a gatekeeper that can check the material coming in on a regular basis so that we don't get into a situation where they're flooding us with stuff we don't want, stuff that's age inappropriate, whatever the case may be?
Yep.
I think that would be the way to handle this, much easier than just having to search all the time to find out what they're sending us.
Yep.
They need to let us know, this is the next tranche of information we're giving you, go ahead and let us know, and then you also need to have access from the vendor to block material we don't want.
Right.
And I don't know if that's even possible.
I would say depends on the vendor. Most of our database resources that we subscribe to, which would mainly be for research aligned to the different curricular areas that they support. I would say those databases are so vast in some cases that it would be really hard to say, let's, block that article or that video that's a part of that resource. But resources like Sora, which is our digital library, we have complete control. There isn't a single addition or deletion from that doesn't go through us or Jake as well. So we have that
That helps.
that in place for Sora, and that's why we went with our own standalone versus a consortium. Honestly, Jeff and I would not be able to keep up with that oversight.
That's the concern, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no way. So the model that we have now, a little more costly on the front end, but we have complete control over what's there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was a big part of the conversation when you were looking to bring it in.
Correct.
Oh, the two options, right?
Right.
And my first question that I had was, how's it been managing and building, constructing our own with Sora? You guys have already pretty much answered that.
The
which is
company's been,
fantastic.
yeah, the company's been really good. Like I have to say, like Sora has been fantastic. I mean, they're really responsive, and they get what we're coming. They understood what we wanted to do. When we asked them to build the collection, we said, "This is what we want. These are the parameters," and they came back and they built it for us. And and even with the updates to the levels, they've been really responsive. So it's a great relationship with them, because really at any point we can say, we want to change this, and they've been really willing to do it overnight.
So we started by giving them what's most circulated and popular in our print collections, because if it's in our print collection, it certainly should be able to fit our digital collection. So they worked with us on that, and then they gave us some suggestions on where there are gaps, and we looked at lists of those titles and selected to try and make sure it was balanced in that way. So they have been really good that way as a partner in building that, and I have complete confidence they'll continue to do that. I think they're probably the largest vendor for school library digital collections in the area. You'll find a lot of neighboring districts that use that as well, and I think for good reason.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of them that have gone the consortium route with them. And it is what it is, because it's exposed to the entire state at that point. And I tell them the process that you guys took us through and what we've invested in, and they didn't know it was an option. And I know there's other districts now looking at that, simply from a standpoint for workload. How do you manage that into what Brian's saying, outside of curating it yourself and then having that hands-on level and that great working partnership with them? I think it's worth the dollar investment, hand over fist. So it's fantastic. Just going through this, and you've mentioned it, obviously the two of you, and then we have 4 aides in our elementary schools. Is there a professional development opportunity somewhere in there to make sure they're able to support this work back and forth, or at your level, that we're missing?
So in terms of for our paraprofessionals and our aides in our school libraries?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, your level or theirs.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity here, or are we missing
No,
a
definitely.
piece where that could strengthen our team, I guess?
Yeah, I think that was one of our areas to focus and improve on, is to start with our paraprofessionals and work with them, especially on rollouts for new materials, and not only promoting them to their teachers but to their students. We have to start with them. They're
Sure.
our #1 resource in order to support all of our schools and our teachers and students within them. So we definitely will be working. We have great relationships. We've had a bit of turnover, which makes it challenging. We were so stable for a long, long time with great people, and they still are. And we have great new people on board, but
Yeah.
we've been really onboarding 3 new assistants probably in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really great thing, because now what we're seeing is a lot of these paraprofessionals that we have kids in those elementary schools. So they're vested they're vested in many ways. They're vested not only as library aides loving what they're doing, but they're vested, you know, that there's some pride in that it's their kids' school. So, I mean, it's been really a neat thing to see the ownership that they've taken, and we're really lucky to have what we have, but
So even with the SOAR rollout in November, they're our number one touch point with
yeah.
giving them the professional development they need so that they can push
Sure.
and promote within their schools.
And then you mentioned in here, in regards to the curation, whether it's digital or physical, kind of meeting two needs, right? The standards and curricular needs, and then the student interest needs.
Correct.
I can see the standards and curriculum. That's an easy thing for Jake and the teachers and our staff to hand you and say, this is what we need for support. How do we manage the student interest level side of it? Or do you have tools that analyze that side of it, to ensure we're, I guess,
Sure.
upholding that end of it?
For me, it's just observing current circulation, number one, and then when they ask for something that we don't have, number two. So if I know what they're seeking, based on our statistics of circulation within our current collection, I know where to focus and expand. And if they're asking for things that we don't have, that's when I also look to see where additions might be available. And so looking to see what's out there and available, looking to see what's age and developmentally appropriate for our kids, looking at reviews, and looking at other collections as well to see what other people are using.
Is there a area where, like, an AI analytic tool could help with the span of control over 6 buildings for you? Or do we see anything in market, I guess, even that's in that
Not that's
realm?
been put in front of us, but it's probably there.
Fair enough.
And so, you never know. It could be something that we look at down the road, maybe not so far down the road.
I mean, yeah.
But we're open to any efficiency that might be available to us, but obviously something that we're confident in as well.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's all I have. I mean, what you presented, and it sounds like some other questions, but from what I'm seeing, it's fantastic, the work you guys are putting in, the ownership you're taking of it. It's a lot of work, but to your point, I think we are better off
Thank you.
now
Thanks.
than where we were 6 years ago.
Thank you.
For sure.
Following up with what you were talking about earlier, you were saying you have the K2, 3, 5, 6 through 12 groups, and you can't go up, but you can't go back, but you can't go up, but you can go back.
Correct.
Mhm.
What if a child, and we know kids vary wildly sometimes on their reading levels and their interest, with possibly parental approval, could you let a child go up?
So that might be tough because every student is put into a bucket in terms of access levels. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get as granular as, individual student access. But something to ask Sora, it might be an
Yeah.
enhancement request.
Yeah.
And it would be
Because I know a
great.
lot
I-
of children that read well above their grade
Yeah,
level.
yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think he wants to restrict them if
Right.
they have interest above where they're at, or,
I'm
a lot of
always
Harry
open to
Potter
that.
fans, a lot of whatever.
And I've done that with print before. I just did it last week with our book fair. Student wanted a resource 6th grader that I felt was, I probably wouldn't bat an eye at a 8th grader, but 6th grader I wasn't sure. So I sent that title along with reviews home to mom or parents with content and asked them to reach out to me and let me know if that was okay for their daughter at the book fair. And for one it was, and for one it wasn't. But at least
Yeah.
they got to make that decision. So when we can identify those, we certainly can do that. And whether we can do that digitally, right now I'm going to say, quite honest, ensure not, but down the road,
Digitally,
maybe.
we can't.
digitally.
Right, yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
physical, we can.
Right.
No, I appreciate the control. I think we need that, and it definitely needs to happen. And the parents always can override whatever we do. I mean, they can go and buy whatever book they want,
Right.
so the parents aren't restricted. But if there's something that, they don't have access to that we can
Right.
give them access to, I think that would be helpful as well. So just something to consider
Mhm.
if we have that opportunity down the road.
Sure.
Yep.
I'm just gonna say, I think this pretty much somewhat fell through the cracks for the last, we had so much other things going on with, Act 20, and so that's kind of where the focus was. And I guess not to have that happen again, we have goals listed. And I think for us to do more reviews and to see how, the process is going, like you talk about a review, collection, weeding process, like what is your criteria for that and what does that look like? Would be interesting I think for all of us to know what
Sure.
that actually looks like. And then also your collection of analysis to identify the usage, age, and quality. But I think those would be of interest to the board to hear what are those.
Sure.
So maybe having updates to see where we are along the way instead of maybe doing this annually every maybe 6 months, quarter, however we want to do it, but to really see if there's something that we can do to help facilitate, because obviously it's a big undertaking to see what we have in our library, but it's that important that we just stay on top of it and help facilitate best we can.
Sure.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely.
Be happy to.
I think it's a good thing for.
I won't bring them back every time. I can,
Yeah.
I'll try to, I'll fill in the best that I can.
No,
Thanks, Jake.
But to Kim's point, it's important that we hear a little bit more regular, because this is a ton of work that's being done, and I've gotten kind of in that, I'm wondering where we're at with that, but we have 1,000 other things that we're managing, and it's great for you to come and bring this report to us and show us what's been done, because it is a lot. It's a lot.
And
Um,
again, honestly, last year, end of the school year, this year, beginning of the school year, you pick up those pieces when you can.
Yep.
So some of these things take time, but hopefully in the end, it's gonna guide us forward well.
Is it just a requirement to have a plan on file with DPI, or are they gonna review it and give you some feedback once you submit it?
Yeah, they do look at it. They already have looked at our draft as part of our inquiry on the diversity audit that we just went through. So we're already getting feedback from them on it. But we are submitting, part of that was the collection analysis piece that you saw updated in there, giving them a collection analysis which Jeff and I think all of us should feel really good about what we offer and what's there. I think it looks really strong for us in that. So to answer your question, yes, they are already looking at that plan.
Okay, thank you.
No, good. Okay, so, this is coming up for recommendation to the full board to approve, the plan. So, I think, if you guys feel comfortable in making a motion,
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the full board to approve the 3-year school library plan, 2024 through 2027.
Second.
all right, I have a motion by Tracy Pollock and a second by Brian Medved. Any other discussion?
I like to say, great report, great detail, thorough. I think we have a very good understanding of what you're trying to accomplish, and I think you're following what our agenda was and that was given to you. Really appreciate all the hard work on this. I think it's gonna make a difference, and it really helps knowing we have people in charge that are gonna run with this and move us in the right direction. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to build that understanding.
Sure.
It makes these decisions infinitely easier for us, when we have that understanding behind it, but the whole process. And to hear the anecdotal stories. I had a student that wanted X, Y, or Z. We were unsure. We reached out and had that touch point with the parents. That's fantastic, right? That helps us understand that process. It might sound granular, but it's important for us to have, so appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, with that, we can take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
It's quite an undertaking.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Thanks.
okay, with that, we will move on. Item 7A, a Dreambox renewal. Jake.
So speaking of the things that our library offers to us, this is something that's coming from Common School Funds. We purchased this last year, and it was a resource that we had brought back that teachers were using. Dreambox is a computer adaptive program that responds to student learning needs. It is not part of our core curriculum, so it is a supplemental material that's being used to support students who may need additional support if they're struggling in math, or it also can be used for extension, so students who need to be pushed further. So it has both of those options. The additional bonus to Dreambox is it also is aligned to Bridges, which is our elementary math curriculum. So what I've brought is the quote to go to the Finance Committee for the renewal of Dreambox for another year.
I guess my one question would have, do we have any way of tracking its usage and
Yep.
how
We
the
do.
impact?
So that's one of the options that we can do within Dreambox to make sure that it is being utilized. There's a couple different ways that you can break it down, but you can get to the minute timing that's there. Sometimes that can be misleading because if a student is on the platform but not necessarily moving through the platform at a high rate of speed, it can be misleading, but it is one of those resources that we're monitoring as we have with others to make sure that there's a utilization rate that justifies the cost that's associated with it.
Do we know about like grade level?
That I
At all,
don't have off
anything?
the top of my head, but I can certainly provide that data to you.
Just out of interest,
Yep.
just to see, where are we benefiting most
Yep.
from having it?
Yeah, we see a lot of, it's evidence-based. Are we actually seeing the results? Are the teachers seeing improvements? Are we getting our bang for our buck?
And that's one of those, that's a little bit harder to parse out for Dreambox in terms of looking at student performance.
Can we compare it to
only-
map testing or some other
Only
testing?
because of some of the other initiatives we've had, so which is the factor that's causing the improvement. So coupled with Dreambox, last year we had professional development that was provided by CESA 6. I'm always going to default to looking at the enhancements in the universal practices that our teachers are providing to kids is the biggest impact that we're going to have in the classroom. So I wouldn't be able to say, like, justify that, these increases are due to Dreambox. I can say that two of the avenues that it supports best are the differentiation piece, where you have students who need to be extended beyond, who they're already doing very well within Bridges, but they need an additional challenge. This is one of those places where we can grow some of our kids who need that level of challenge. And then on the flip side, those that might need additional just repetition and practice to increase their math fluency, this is something that can be utilized in that area. So it hits some of our students on the edges, but it would be tough for me to say Dreambox is the cause that's here. One thing that I could potentially do is take a look at users of Dreambox, and then if there are students who don't use Dreambox, and try to parse it out. But again, it's correlation doesn't equal causation, so it's information that I could produce, but I don't know if it
Just
means
from-
one thing or the other.
From speaking with staff, it sounds like it's used specifically on the math side, either to support advanced learning, pushing past the grade level, or supporting someone that's struggling a little bit to give additional work. So it does kind of work in both directions. I don't know if, when you say who's using it versus not using it, you might not see a
Right.
direct correlation. This is one of those programs that was brought up after recommendations that you provided on removing certain stuff that was underutilized for the dollar amount, and then we needed to find a program to replace some of that could be more standardized across. And that's how we came into Dreambox in the first place. It would be interesting to see some of that data. Obviously, it's, for a lot of reasons you just explained, it's hard to pull it out. But use rate, I think, is probably one of the biggest indicators. Are these kids using it? Is it more the advanced pushing past their grade level using it? Is it more the supportive, the ones that are starting to lag behind a little bit? Right? Who in those classes are using it? Into what volume? That might help us understand where it's being most effective, I guess.
Yeah, it's just interesting
Yep,
to see how
absolutely.
it's best being utilized. Is it the ones that are excelling that need more, or is it the ones that are really struggling? Who are we benefiting most on? And like I said, it could be 50-50, we'll never really
Right.
know, but,
Does seem to be widely used in the classrooms, which is,
right, the percentage
Good.
of kids using, would you be able to,
Yeah, I can, again, that's, so we can get login information through Clever, so this is
Mhm.
something that they can access using single sign-in, so, we could look at it that way in terms
Right.
of use rate.
okay, I think we would know that if it's heavily being used by just a few students, or is it just a lot of students are using it, you know, every so often, so. Okay, but
I
it
would
sounds
think
like
the
it is
way-
definitely beneficial to
sti-
the students.
yeah,
Absolutely.
anecdotally, what I've seen is it's integrated into the classrooms for sure. I mean,
Mhm.
I just received an email of one of my children who may not have completed a few things.
Yeah.
He
I would
missed
think,
recess.
I would think Dreambox at some point with the amount of data they're collecting, cause they're actually adjusting the program based on the students, so they're collecting a lot of data. They ought to be able to tell you as far as usage, how well these kids are improving just on their own program, regardless of what they do on outside testing, which should
Correct,
help.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
they're,
you
yep.
know.
do the lessons.
By design, that's how the program works, so.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's interest, I'll take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to provide the Finance Committee a positive recommendation to approve the purchase of Dreambox Learning for an amount not to exceed $19,775. The purchase of Dreambox would come from common school funds.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Tracy Pollock and a second by Brian Medved. Any discussion? Yes, Tom?
In
Or
the
Mike?
material, under Discovery, it's showing Dreambox Math. Is that all we're getting, or?
Yeah, so there, Dreambox, has other, there's a reading component to
Right.
it. We chose not to bring it online, given that we've invested in Wonders. We wanna make sure that we're taking a look at that program before we introduce any other variables into measuring how well Wonders is performing in our classroom. There is the opportunity to expand to the literacy side, but that's not something that we're interested in.
Okay, and in the material, STEM was mentioned. That's
I
not
yeah, I
in there
apologize
either.
for the way that they print out their contract. They let you
Yeah.
know all of the different things you can purchase from them, and then at the very end, they tell you the thing you are purchasing from
Right,
them.
right.
So it's a kind of a promotional
I was a little
piece.
confused looking
It
through
is-
the material.
Yep, it is only Dreambox Math that we're
Okay.
purchasing, and those other things that you see are just a part of their
Okay,
standard
very good.
agreement.
I noticed in the background material, the quote that they gave you expired at the end of last month. Do you see any issues that pricing may change before this gets to Finance Committee and then approved by the board?
I doubt it. They kind of update their pricing on annual basis, so I think we're still good under that quote, but I will let the finance
we'll
committee
have
know if there's an issue.
Twist the salesman's
Yep,
arm a
yep,
little bit?
Yep,
if
I
needed?
think that, it was approved for this amount, so
Yeah,
can't go
really
anywhere.
good.
This is a reduction in cost from the quote from last year, so the price for us did come down.
All right, good news.
We'll have that accurate and updated
I-
contract for his finance meeting?
Yes,
Or Mr.
I will
Wall's
include that in the
meeting?
finance packet.
Just so we have the most up to date.
Yep.
All right, seeing no other discussion, we can take a vote. All those in favor, say
Aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, well, that motion passes. All right, we will move on to B, PLTW robotics update. Jake.
So Project Lead the Way is a set of courses that we offer at both the middle school and the high school. One of the courses that we offer is automation and robotics, and to keep up to date with that, there are some additional kits that we need to purchase. The old kits that we currently have kind of aged out. One of the negative drawbacks to them is the old kits require PCs to run. They can't run off of Chromebooks. The updated kits can run off of Chromebooks. So to keep our old systems running, we would have to upgrade our computers, or we can flip to this, which our students have access to Chromebooks, and the kits can run off of those. So either way, there are updates that we need to do to PLTW. This is not only the most cost-effective way to do it, it's the other piece of it is it's the it is what Project Lead the Way would require. So our previous instructors, who both retired last year, were comfortable using those kits. The new programming requires these upgrades. We can do it two ways, and again, this is to balance out what we have. There is an upgrade kit that we can use to keep what we currently have going, but it would also allow us to run the resources using Chromebooks, and then there's the complete kit in and of itself. So that's why there's two different prices. So one is just the upgrade kit that allows us to keep using everything that we have, plus the new kits would give us an expansion that would allow us to maintain the automation and robotics programming that we have at the middle school. The way that we're funding this, every year I have a portion of my teaching and learning budget that I allocate to Project Lead the Way, given there are seemingly always some level of update that needs to be occur in one of our courses. This is not an annual purchase that we're looking at. This is a one-time buy that's going to get us through the next, our last kits are more than 10 years old, I think, so there's a longevity that comes along with them. But the other piece of this is there's a CTE incentive grant that we apply for and get every year. It's open to every school district in the state of Wisconsin, and it's through the Department of Public Works. No, sorry, let me go that one. DWD, so Department of Workforce Development. Every student who earns a certification at our high school level, which is a result of our K-12 programming, but it's at the high school level where they earn the certifications as anytime 9 through 12, there's a dollar amount that's associated with those certifications. The max amount you could get for those kiddos is $1,000 per certification for a student. Students can only earn one. And then it's prorated based on the number of certifications that we submit. Last year we had 66 certifications. This year we had nearly 100 certifications that we applied for, but it's retroactive to the previous year. We had about $44,000 that we got in for the CTE incentive grant. So a portion of this is funded through that as well. So it's not a purchase that wasn't planned for. It's coming from those buckets from KMS's Project Lead the Way, mine, and then the CTE incentive grant, and we plan to use some of that money in that way.
So this pricing includes a certain number of custom kits and a certain number of upgrade kits?
Yeah, it's balanced 8 and 8. So there are 8 brand new kits that include everything, and then there's the 8 kits that allow us to keep the previous materials going.
Is there ever a time where we would just want all of just the custom kits instead of having the upgrade? That
potentially you increase the cost a little bit. So one of the things that we can balance in the short term, we could slowly bring those online to add to those custom kits. At this point, in working with our middle school instructor, he would be thrilled with what we're currently bringing.
Any questions? All right. With that, entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to provide the Finance Committee a positive recommendation to approve the purchase of PLTW Gateway custom and upgrade kits for an amount not to exceed $22,440. The purchase of the PLTW supplies would come from a combination of funds budgeted for Kennedy Middle School, the teaching and learning budget, and from the CTE incentive grant.
Second.
Okay, with that, I have a motion by Tracy Pollock and a second by Brian Medved. Any questions? Any more discussion? With that, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, item C of new business. Back to you, Jake.
So I'm bringing tonight is a proposal for a small change to our high school course catalog, but it would also allow us to run one of our high school courses as an additional CAP class. CAP classes are the Cooperative Academic Partnership Program that we have with UW-Oshkosh. So we already offer some CAP classes at the high school. 2 examples of that would be environmental science and Spanish. So what it allows our students to do is earn college credit while they're still in high school. And the price at which they're earning those college credits is significantly less than the cost of college credits if they were to take them at a college. They're a little over $100 a credit, and it is, to take the course, you don't have to take it as CAP, so you don't necessarily have to do that, but there's obviously an incentive for you if you do a class in the field of physical education. That might be one where a student may not choose to take this class as a CAP class because their course requirements at college may not require them to have this. One of the benefits for our high school kids to earn college credit is as you register for college classes, any amount of credits that you have kind of changes the order in which you get to register. So kids with 2 credits would get to register ahead of those with none. Likewise, same thing with kids who earn a lot of classes or credits at the high school level get priority there. Plus, there is a huge cost savings for families if they're able to apply any of these credits to electives or things like that. So we do have the opportunity, because our class is essentially aligned to what UW-Oshkosh would require for their CAP class, to not change the course, but then to just offer it to our students as an opportunity for them to take this CAP class while they're in high school. So lifeguarding is only open to 11th and 12th graders, and then this would be an opportunity for them to earn college credit if they so chose.
So semi-off topic, but topic. How often do we review our curriculum to see what classes we can add to the curriculum?
Our teachers are doing a pretty great job of looking at it, and they realize that this is an opportunity where they can do that. There are places, and the primary locations where you could say, here's a good opportunity for us to take a look at it, are APs. AP and CAP kind of work slightly differently, where the college credit that you take for AP is sort of completely tied to the test that you take. So how well you perform on a test determines how well you get this. CAP operates similar to a college class where it's not just a one shot. And there's also an opportunity to earn more college credits in some cases for the classes that they take as CAP. So there is a benefit to offering classes in this way. It's definitely something that I think is a useful way to expand our programming. The one catch to all of this is the certification qualities of the person who's teaching it. So one of the things that they have to have is a master's in their field, which is why we tied that to the compensation study that we did last year and offered that as an incentive. So if you have a master's degree in mathematics, you could offer a CAP class at your high school. Same thing with history or any field. So that's the thing that opens the door, is having a qualified instructor with a master's degree that allows us to offer it that way. And it has to be in the field of the department. So you need to get a CAP Spanish course. We have a Spanish teacher who has a master's degree in Spanish, and that's what allows us to do that. So that's the one hiccup. So anytime we have an opportunity where we have an instructor who can offer a course this way, this is something that I think there is a huge value for us to explore, is to say, can we offer this to our students? Because again, it's the cost savings for kids. To take a history class at Germantown High School is going to be a significant savings to them over what they would have to do at any university. And because they're earning UW Oshkosh credit, those UW credits are transferable amongst the other universities, so they don't have to go to UW Oshkosh to benefit from having those credits on their transcript. And if you're a college kiddo or a prospective college kiddo, you want to go down that road, having that on your transcript shows some advanced coursework that you've engaged in at the high school level. So that's a benefit to strengthen their applications.
That's a great program. It's exciting to add another one. Tracy? Seen a pattern tonight.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to approve offering PE 361 lifeguard training with the opportunity for CAP credit. And I'll just note that's for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Tracy Pollock, a second by Brian Medved. Any discussion?
I have a question regarding the lifeguard staffing over at the high school. Lifeguard staffing over at the high school. I believe last year we had the pool closed certain days because we didn't have enough lifeguards. Do you recall that?
That I'm not aware of.
Okay, I stopped in there a couple times. I thought the pool was closed because they said we didn't have lifeguards. So I was just wondering if there's a way kids taking this class, if we could offset the cost of the class by them putting in hours at the pool. We could explore that idea or something.
Hey, Chris isn't here, so
When-
it's a great time to ask these
When
questions.
Brittany and Chris return, I will explore that option. I'm not sure how that funding works. But yes, I mean, that is, the other part of this
Does
is.
it give job experience and everything?
You do also get that lifeguard certification that comes along with it, so it does become a career opportunity for our students. And as you pointed out, that is an area of need, especially during the summertime, where this is something that's a good opportunity for our kids.
Okay. All right, discussion, I will take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? All right, with that passes. We have one more motion.
You can change it up.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Brian Medved and a second by Tracy Pollock. Any discussion? With that, take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, no opposed? All right, I have, the meeting is adjourned at 5:53. Thank you for all the attention, questions, and involvement in our meeting.
I won't say it.
Drive home safely.